I never thought I'd be writing something like this. Honestly, I thought I knew my wife, Sarah, pretty well. We've been married for 10 years, and for the most part, it's been a good life. Nice house, 2 kids, decent jobs. Nothing perfect, but I trusted her. That trust is what made the whole thing hit me like a ton of bricks. It started with little signs, her being secretive about her phone, late nights working, and a sudden change in her attitude towards me. She'd snap at me over nothing, act distant, and I kept telling myself it was just stress. Maybe I was overthinking it. Then, a few weeks ago, I noticed something strange. Sarah started canceling plans with friends, saying she was tired or had work stuff piling up. She kept going out to ride at the stables, though she'd been doing that for years. I never paid much attention, until I started noticing her getting defensive if I asked questions about her riding lessons or her instructor, Jake. She'd brush it off, call me paranoid, say I was imagining things, but I knew something was off. I could feel it in my gut. One night, out of the blue, I decided to do a little digging. I'd always been suspicious, but I never had concrete proof. So I checked the security cameras just to see what she was up to. I know it's invasive, but I was desperate. The cameras, which I'd installed mostly for peace of mind, caught everything. And what I saw made my stomach drop. Sarah sneaking out late at night, slipping into her car, heading to the stables. I could see her walking into the barn, then spend hours there. The footage showed her coming out in the early morning, looking flushed and excited. I froze every time I replayed it. Then I saw something else, her sitting very close to Jake, the riding instructor. There was a moment where they were laughing, leaning into each other. I saw her kiss him on the cheek. That was the moment I realized she'd been lying to my face all this time. And it wasn't just riding lessons, this was something more. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the signs pointed to an affair. I felt sick, angry, confused. I couldn't believe Sarah, who I thought I knew, was cheating on me with our daughters. Instructor, it was like everything I believed in was crumbling. That day, I learned that my wife had been lying to me for months, maybe longer, and I didn't know how to process it. After I watched the footage for the third time, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling around what I saw, Sarah sneaking out late, then returning with that stupid grin on her face. I felt like my stomach was constantly churning. I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who checks the security cameras, but at that moment I was desperate for the truth, no matter how ugly it was. I kept replaying their interactions in my head, how close they seemed, how happy she looked with him. And I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? Weeks? Months? I didn't want to admit it, but I felt like I had been living with a stranger all this time. The worst part was how she lied about everything. When I confronted her, she denied everything. Said I was imagining things, that Jake was just a friend helping her with her riding, that she'd never do something so stupid. She called me paranoid, accused me of spying on her. Honestly, I was furious. It wasn't just the betrayal. She was dismissing my feelings, trying to gaslight me into believing I was crazy. The confrontation was a nightmare. I told her I saw the footage, that I knew she'd been lying. Her response: she called me crazy, said I was paranoid, that I was just jealous because she was spending time at the stables. She even had the nerve to accuse me of not trusting her, as if I'd gone crazy for no reason. When I pressed her, she broke down for just a second, then snapped and started yelling at me, telling me I needed to back off, that I had no right to pry into her life, that she deserved her privacy, her freedom. I could see the bitchy, cold side of her come out. I'd never seen her like that before. It was like she was trying to push me away, telling me I was overreacting, that I was crazy for even suspecting. It was the most gut-wrenching moment of my life. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and completely lost. My mind was racing. How long had she been lying? Was she really having sex with him? And if so, how could she do that to me, to our daughter, to the life we built? I knew I couldn't just let this go, but I also didn't want to blow everything up without a plan. I sat there, staring at her through the door she'd slammed shut, feeling a mix of rage and heartbreak. I knew I had to figure out my next move, but honestly, I was still in shock. It felt like my entire world was crashing down around me, and I didn't know if I had the strength to pick up the pieces. In the days that followed, I found myself spiraling. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and I kept replaying everything I saw on the footage. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with Jake, her leaning into him, her lips curled into that fake, smug smile she always put on when she was trying to hide something. I was furious, but also hurt, deeply hurt. I wondered how I missed all the signs, how I let myself be blind for so long. That woman I loved, the woman I married, had been lying to my face for who knows how long, and she was still lying, trying to deny it all. I decided I had to confront her again, this time more prepared. I needed the truth, and I wasn't going to get it by begging or pleading. I sat her down in the living room, kept my voice calm but firm. I told her I knew everything, the cameras, the footage, her secret nights at the stables. I looked her dead in the eyes and asked her what the hell she thought she was doing. She looked furious, then quickly switched to that bitchy, dismissive attitude she always uses when she's losing control. She started lying again, throwing out the usual excuses, how she was stressed, how Jake was just a friend helping her train, that I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her passion for riding. She called me jealous, insecure, paranoid, and I could see the contempt in her eyes. I felt my blood boil. I told her she was full of shit, that I knew she'd been fucking Jake, that I'd seen her with him, that I wasn't some idiot who'd swallow her lies anymore. And that's when she really lost it. She started crying, not the genuine kind, but the manipulative, fake tears she's so good at. She threw herself on the couch, acting fragile and hurt, saying I was ruining everything, that she loved me but needed to breathe, needed her own space, that I was suffocating her, that I was just jealous because I was insecure. She painted herself as the victim, as if I was the one hurting her. Watching her, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she lie so effortlessly while trying to make me feel guilty? That night I sat alone in the dark, thinking about everything I'd uncovered. The betrayal cut deep, worse than I thought possible. I felt like I'd been slapped in the face repeatedly. My trust, my marriage, everything was on the line. I kept asking myself if I could forgive her, if I even wanted to. But more than that, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her keep lying, keep cheating, and keep acting like she was the victim. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for this marriage or cut my losses and walk away. The decision still wasn't clear, but one thing was certain: I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. I needed to figure out my next move, and fast. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of clarity. I knew I had to do something, something big enough to make her realize I wasn't going to be played for a fool. I started planning my next move carefully. I couldn't just blow up the marriage without knowing what I was really dealing with, what her intentions were, and how deep her lies went. I needed proof, evidence, something concrete to hold over her head if it came to that. I decided I'd follow her again, see if she would lead me to Jake or anyone else. I didn't want to confront her just yet. I wanted to gather more info, see how reckless she was being. So I started checking the cameras again, going through hours of footage. Sure enough, late at night, there she was again, sneaking out the door after I'd gone to bed. She'd meet Jake at the stables, and sometimes they'd ride around for hours. I saw her whispering close, touching him in ways I didn't want to see. She looked excited, reckless. But then I saw something new. One night she stayed way longer than usual. When she finally came out, she looked exhausted but also exhilarated. She was practically bouncing as she got into her car. I wondered what the hell had happened in those hours. Did they finally have sex? Was this the climax of her betrayal? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew I was close. I kept watching, waiting for the perfect moment to catch her in a lie, or better yet, catch her with him. During all this, she kept up her act at home, acting sweet, acting innocent, pretending everything was fine. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see the cracks. She was walking on eggshells, trying to hide her guilt, but she couldn't hide everything. It was only a matter of time before I'd catch her off guard. I was already feeling like I was losing my mind, caught between rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could someone I loved so much turn into someone I barely recognized? I kept asking myself if I should just end it, if I had the strength to hold on and fight for whatever left. But deep down, I knew I needed her to admit the truth, face what she'd done. No more lies, no more excuses. Every night I went to bed with the images of her with Jake playing in my mind. I wondered if she thought about me at all during those hours at the stables, or if she just saw him as some kind of escape, some kind of thrill she couldn't get from me anymore. The thought made me sick. I was starting to feel hollow inside, like the betrayal had hollowed out a part of me I'd never get back. Still, I held on to the hope that I could find out everything, confront her in a way that she couldn't lie her way out of. I was already planning the next step, because I knew I couldn't keep living in this limbo. I needed her to face the truth, one way or another. I spent the next few days weighing my options. Part of me wanted to confront her directly, demand she come clean, and see if she'd finally admit what was going on. But another part knew that if I did that without proof, she'd just turn everything around, gaslight me again, and deny everything. I couldn't risk being made to look like the crazy one, not after all I'd already uncovered. So I decided to gather the final pieces of evidence I needed to make her see I wasn't bluffing. That night, I stayed up late, staying in the shadows and watching the security footage from earlier that evening. I saw her slip out of the house, just like usual, and drive toward the stables. But this time, I followed her. I parked a few miles away, pretending to be just another nighttime quiet observer. I made sure I was hidden enough but close enough to see what was happening. And what I saw made my blood run cold. She met Jake again, but this time they weren't just talking or riding. She was practically throwing herself at him. They went into the barn, and I could see their silhouettes through the open door. For a moment, I hesitated. Part of me felt like I was crossing a line, invading her privacy even more. But the other part, the part that was sick of her lies, told me I needed to see everything. I saw her kiss him. Passionately, her hands in his hair, her body pressed against him. It was unmistakable. She was having sex with him, right there in the barn, away from everything and everyone. That image hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt my knees weaken. I wanted to scream, cry, run away. But I stayed frozen, watching her give herself to him like she didn't care about the world. When she finally came out and got into her car, she looked breathless, flushed, and glowing. I felt a strange mixture of rage and heartbreak. I had the proof now, the final nail in the coffin. My wife, the woman I trusted, had been screwing another man for who knows how long, and I had just watched her do it. I didn't want to confront her immediately. Instead, I went home and sat in the dark, replaying everything in my head. I was angry at her for lying, for cheating, for breaking what we built. But I was also devastated, realizing how much I'd been blind. How much I'd wanted to believe she was the woman I loved. And now, I had to decide what to do with this knowledge. Do I blow everything up and kick her out? Do I fight to save what's left? Or do I just walk away and forget? Honestly, I didn't have the answer yet. All I knew was that I had the evidence and I was ready to face her with it. The truth was out and nothing would be the same again. The morning after I gathered everything I needed, I stayed in my room, trying to figure out how to approach her. I knew I couldn't just sit on this anymore. I had to confront her face to face, know that she was finally going to have to admit what she'd done. When she came out of her room, I told her I needed to talk. Her face instantly went cold, the usual bitchy glare she'd perfected over the years. She tried to brush me off, act like everything was normal, but I wasn't having it. I pulled out my phone, opened the video footage I'd taken, every moment of her with Jake, the sex, the lies. Her face twisted into something ugly. She started denying everything, saying I was a crazy, suspicious husband, that I was making it all up. I told her I had the proof that she'd been screwing her daughter's instructor, that she was a deceitful, selfish woman who'd thrown away her marriage for a quick thrill. She stared at me, lips trembling, mouth working like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. For a heartbeat, she looked like she was going to break down, but then she snapped. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You're insecure. You're the problem here." I looked at her and realized she was trying to turn me into the villain again. But I wasn't going to let her. I told her I wanted her to leave. I wanted her out of my house, out of my life. That I'd been patient, that I'd given her chances to come clean. But she'd only lied and cheated and manipulated. I told her I was done, that I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, and that I was sick of pretending everything was fine. She screamed, called me names, accused me of being cruel. But I stood my ground. I had the evidence, and I was finally ready to face the reality I'd been avoiding. She packed her bags and left that day, still trying to spin her lies, still insisting she loved me, still calling me paranoid and controlling. But I knew better now. I knew she'd been lying from the start. Watching her leave, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. It was over. The woman I married was gone, replaced by the woman who cheated, lied, and betrayed everything I ever believed in. I realized I'd been a fool for so long, trusting her blindly. In the end, I learned that sometimes you only find out the truth when everything else falls apart. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that I was stronger than I thought. I could survive this. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know one thing. I won't let someone betray me and walk all over my heart again. I'll rebuild piece by piece. And maybe someday I'll find someone who's worth trusting again. But for now, I'm just glad I finally faced the truth and took control of my life.